Hello and welcome to Integrid TV in association with Engerati. I'm now joined by Laurent Schmitt, who's the Secretary General for ENTSO-E. And Laurent, nice to see you again.
Right. Thank you.
We keep meeting in studios. we got to change that. Laurent, nice to have you here. And just a little bit as we dive into it, it's the end of the first day of Integrid. And just to put things into context a little bit about, it's still a relatively new job for you. What's your sort of vision about where you want to take ENTSO-E as an association? And then we can talk about other things after that.
Yes, so as you know, I've joined ENTSO-E now for 6 months, and we have embarked into a transformation journey and really heading towards building further digital and IT to facilitate our member to share information. If you look at European grids, I think we are really at a tipping point in the sense that the third directive have now brought together a lot of new network codes, which are new code of conducts on how to best use the system in the future for anyone who wants to connect with the system. And of course, what we realize while we are in the process of developing this new code of conducts across Europe, we need further tools to be able to optimize this system together, to share information, and also to anticipate what's going to be the next deployment after the network code, which is going to be the regulation related to the clean energy package and all what we want now to create around the prosumer and flexibility from the grid edge.
So when you look at all of that, and to rewind a little bit in your previous life where you're working at the Alstom G Grid, it's called now. It's like, what did you see in terms of, being at that vendor side that you can bring to where you are now, and some of the opportunities that you can unlock? Because we can't do any of this without, there was a lot of conversation in the panel about bringing in outside people and having more of a partnership relationship rather than buy-sell side relationship.
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, my move into ENTSO-E came pretty much as a chance, and I was after over 20 years of careers in various technology positions, I clearly saw that the technology was pretty much ready to be used, and we were really struggling into getting it as a mainstream business into the grid and utility environment. And I progressively realized that it was all about transformation and change management on the grid business side to make sure that basically operator now incorporate these requirements into their usage as business as usual, basically.
Because that's one of your frustrations as well, isn't it? We've got so many pilots.
That's the point.
Everybody is piloting everything.
How to industrialize, how to roll out, how to bring it to scale. And then I discovered this opportunity into ENTSO-E, and I think on the other side, the grid operator were thinking, okay, now I need, because of this network code, to change and move into a new direction and really embed, I think, some of this innovation as a core next development. And I think that's how we all came together. And I found it very interesting from a human being perspective to be now a part of the role on the transformation side. And ENTSO-E has a very interesting position in the sense that it aggregates the cooperation of all grid operators at the European scale. And we definitely can accelerate some of these deployments given that central role of ENTSO-E, and that's true for our own members, but also for other people to cooperate with, like the DSOs, and the need of basically agreeing on the best way to interface TSOs and DSOs in the future. So it's really now about deployments, making this technology and innovation business as usual, moving from technology pilot into innovation and market trial pilot. That's what we need to do.
Is that where the whole common grid initiative comes into it as well?
So the exactly what we when I joined ENTSO-E, I originally did not realize that there was, I would say, an ongoing move around digital, and I think that was shown today about this common grid model. The challenge which we have in Europe is how to integrate all this grid capacity together, how to run a joint calculation as single calculation at a pan-European scale. And what came very obvious here is what kind of data what kind of grid model do we need to construct together, ENTSO-E and TSOs, to be able to run this real-time calculation together in the future to basically have markets operating better and basically provide this scarce capacity into the market as freely as possible, making use of data.
Right, right. And then data becomes the glue or the intelligence of the back of the data to virtually integrate almost the entire network.
Yes.
Because that's the only way, it's only at that scale are we going to have the ability to balance everything.
Yeah, and it's all about co-optimization and about making use of reserve and resource from one country to the other one, while taking into account constraint and limitation on the cross-border, and also sharing best practice. What I see is Europe, we are a set of a large number of countries, and each of these countries has had his own trial, his own way of reinventing the wheel. So now when you are starting a deployment phase, it's all about what are the various wheels being invented across the quarters of Europe, and how to put this initiative together. And I think that's very important.
I agree with you, because I see it very often, not in, let's say, the coordinated programs, like something like Interflex, where everything is kind of joined up a little bit. But a lot of times when I'm talking to interviewees, they're saying, "Oh, we've done this really cool pilot," and as they start talking about it, I was like, "Yeah, there's 3 others exactly like it, and why is so? How can we bridge that sort of knowledge and sharing gap and just accelerate? Because these are very smart people.
Yeah.
Why waste your time on reinventing the same baseline? Why not innovate and
so I think there must be a joint bottom-up and top-down approach. I think the bottom-up is kind of gathering this information, and we have an innovation group of people inside ENTSO-E trying to facilitate, I would say, a bottom-up summary of the very good initiatives which have happened, like NISGrid, and we talked a lot about NISGrid in the past. Yeah. And of course, I've not forgotten NISGrid because I've moved to ENTSO-E. But in the same time, there must be a top-down approach as well, which is in the discussion which we have with the regulator or the European Commission in terms of deploying new regulation, new network codes. How can we embed this technology and this best practice from a bottom-up point of view into a top-down deployment? And I think the interesting role of ENTSO-E is we are in charge of monitoring this deployment at a pan-European level, and we are in a uniquely position in terms of seats into favoring and sharing this best practice and also challenging people. Why don't you reuse this piece which has been done in Denmark, France, Italy, and really facilitate this fostering of ideas?
So, as I'm getting signals, because we're coming to the end of our time here, just on a personal note, what's been your biggest sort of challenge around all of this and what you're doing?
Around ENTSO-E?
Yeah.
I think it's really a challenge about governance and governance at the pan-European scale, and how to get these various very smart people agreeing with each other, I would say listening to each other, taking lessons learned out of each other, and that's not an easy process, because when you are an inventor, you're sure to have invented the best thing in the world, and you tend to be focused on to deploying it internationally. And I think one of the challenges, how can we facilitate that dialogue so that it's not the French or the German or the Dutch imposing their model, but progressively aggregating these models together and deciding for the target model. Collaboration. Yeah. So that's really an important element.
And last question, I'm going to ignore the signals for a second, because it's something that came out of the conference a lot. A lot of people are saying that we also need to open up to outside actors.
True.
And bring them in. And what's your view about what needs to be done to make it more transparent? Not just technology people, but investors as well, so that they fund these startups that we want, who we want our data to be used on, and things like that.
So here we really want to base this approach on the new technology and the new standard. We have our own transparency platform, which was referred in this panel, about providing data at a pan-European and facilitating basically development of startup. We are, for instance, exchanging with one of them, which is Tomorrow, which is just a startup of two two people who just came to us and say we can make great use out of data. So what we realize is grid operator being at the center of basically that exchange. We can kind of foster and facilitate this exchange. We do have a lot of interaction with market stakeholders already. TSOs are managing balancing markets and do have a lot of interaction with stakeholders. And we really want to make use of that into turning our models towards much more transparent model, much more data gathering, listening to the user of our system, and facilitating development of new business model around it. So with my background coming from the private industry, I'm really keen into instigating this new user group.
And a little bit of a different philosophy as well.
Different philosophy, kind of, we want stakeholder of our system to be the creator of the next generation of code of conduct into our system, having a transparent, open dialogue with these stakeholders, and that's really at the center of our network code development as well.
Well, Laurent, it is the end of our time at the interview. I've known you for a long time. You seem really energized about this. So, I know you're going to make it happen. Thank you as well for watching InnoGrid TV in association with Engerati.